Right now I'm speaking to Adam Heller. He's a certified behavioral analyst, therapist, expert in dealing with opposition, motivational, and persuasion. Adam, thanks for joining us. So we're talking about ISIS and how they're able to persuade and manipulate young people into joining their organization.
Right, and thank you for having me back. And persuasion is really a simple process. It's not much different from ISIS than it is from getting you to buy a can of soda pop. People are feeling crummy. They don't feel like they belong. They don't have the life they want. They don't have the success they want. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes through and they offer this dream, and they offer a way to escape pain and to feel better. And persuasion is nothing more than creating a good feeling, a wonderful thing, and then linking it to your product. That's what ISIS has been so successful in doing that Al-Qaeda and these other groups have not before. They're able to make it sound like a wonderful experience. It sounds great. It's going to make you feel well. Here's how it happens. They lay it out beautifully, and the next thing you know, people are heading for the airport and running to Syria.
Is it similar to how cults do their thing, is sort of getting them to feel a part of, and sort of, do they even use things like the sort of love bombing techniques that a cult might?
Well, yes, in many ways, and you really did, Drew, hit it on the head. It's about community. People want to feel like they belong. We all want that. That's, we go to church, we go to temple, we go to our spiritual groups, whatever it is. This is a way that people can feel like they belong, like they have purpose. And it's all emotion, because obviously intellectually it doesn't work. But once they tug on your emotions, they get you, just like anything else that would pull you or me, but obviously not so out of the box.
Right. I mean, it literally means sometimes disavowing yourself of everything you've always been connected to, everything you believe in. I know cults have done this forever, sort of by sort of getting people away from their family of origin, making them feel as though, either in or out. And if you're in, they have a certain way of looking at things, and the people that are on the outside, including your family, are just unenlightened. I get the old game, but I thought people were sort of more aware of that these days. But I guess on an emotional level, if you get a properly vulnerable person, they just know how to play it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And they do get you to disavow everything you know. But if what you know doesn't feel good, that's an easy sell. That's why people are sold things all day long. The TV commercials do the same thing. Again, these are things that are often useful, but, the same thing can get you to buy a box of sugar cereal. That's not very healthy either, although it isn't ISIS.
This whole thing frightens me. I wonder, does it scare you? And have you seen anything in particular that stood out, any technique or thing they did that sort of you went, oh, I can't believe it, or it even scared you?
Well, it scares me because more and more people are unhappy. You see this. You're an expert in addictions. More and more people get addicted. People don't start doing these things because it's wonderful. It's because they're moving away from not feeling poorly. So it's scary because we live in a society that waits for something to happen and treats it with a pill or a surgery or a something and manages the symptom, rather than teaching people the tools to make good choices, to know how to feel good for no good reason at all, and to be able to make good, useful choices for their life. So, it's really scary.
Yeah, well, I have to take a quick break for traffic in just a second, but I want to get into that a little bit. Maybe it's somewhat away from ISIS, but the whole idea of human flourishing and what creates happiness, what is happiness, all that is sort of lost. And a lot of people are coming from broken family systems, traumatic childhood, at least adverse childhood experiences, and then there's nothing to catch them. There's nothing to give them meaning, nothing in our world that, other than the promise of great success, which of course is, a shibboleth, it's just empty. And I was just seeing pictures of the guy that was shot in Texas, and he was a carpet cleaner, it looks like. And he didn't, that probably was not fun. And so where does he create meaning? And how does he feel connected? And somebody comes along, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that other cults aren't taking advantage of this, frankly. Are we seeing an increase in cults generally?
Well, cults aren't my number one expertise, but what we are seeing is a tremendous increase in organizations that make people feel good. Spirituality and religion has skyrocketed over the past few years because it gives us a sense of meaning. You used the word. It's brilliant. It gives us a sense of meaning. It gives us a sense of comfort, and we're looking for ways to feel good. And the big problem is we're looking for it externally rather than doing it as an inside job. When people know how to feel good for no good reason at all, instead of acting out of need, they just act out of want.
Adam, before I take a break for traffic, what is your website again?
It's Adam Heller, AdamHeller.com.
Thanks. Hold on a second. Adam Heller is a certified behavioral analyst and a therapist. We're talking about the situation with ISIS having claimed responsibility for the Texas attack. Chilling warnings now where they say, quote, "We tell America what is coming will be even bigger." What do they mean by that? How do they get people to mobilize on their behalf? Who are these people? What kind of techniques do they use? And what's wrong with us? Well, that's it's sort of my issue. How do we? What should we be doing so people aren't out there vulnerable to this sort of thing? Our phone number is 1-800. I am speaking to Adam Keller. And Adam, it's interesting that we're having this conversation this morning because I think I read it in the New York Times this morning along the left column. As you look at the front page of the paper, there was a article about President Obama talking to a group of black men at I think it was a college, and they were sort of talking about what the problem is and where things are going. And they all ended up, I had very little time to read this article, and I hope I'm not paraphrasing it inaccurately, but what I took away was the men started talking about the fact that they had no fathers. And because they were trying to talk about solutions and why there was a problem in Baltimore and whatnot. And, why would their father not love them enough that they would abandon them? And Obama apparently related to this and came out and said, we should be talking about love and not school to prison pipeline, which was a stunning thing to hear a president say. I'm not sure if I read it right. I should have gone back and reread to make sure I'm not misquoting. But let's say that I'm getting this accurate. That pretty much goes to the heart of the matter, doesn't it?
I agree 100%. We spend so much time focusing on what's wrong rather than what's right. And the head of the American Psychological Association back in 1998 created a whole new paradigm called positive psychology to capitalize on what works rather than keep looking what doesn't. Because the traditional models of help, as he said, we do a pretty good job of getting people from feeling -8 to 0, but 0 isn't a very good life. It's
right.
Mediocre. It's the definition. So let's start focusing on the positive things and use that to build forward. And it is what's missing. And these guys, I'm sure, these people that didn't have the fathers, minimal parenting, and they didn't get the tools that they needed to create meaning, to create happiness, to create fulfillment, to create satisfaction. And that's what's going to keep people centered and moving through life beautifully and not, again, hopping a plane to the Middle East.
See, I think we've even lost track of what happiness is. We don't even know what we're talking about anymore. We talk about happiness. I mean, if you were to ask an average, those same kids that President Obama was speaking to, what happiness is, they'd probably say, oh, I want to be like Floyd Mayweather. I want to get a lot of money, a car, a girl, whatever. It's like, yeah, okay. Yet when we measure things like something we call happiness, those people are not any more happy than anybody else. There's other things that actually make humans give humans happiness.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's exactly backwards. Most of us think, when I have the right person, when I have the money, when I have the car, when I have the house, I'll be happy. What the science has proven is when I'm happy, I'll have the better relationship, I'll have more money, I'll have better things. And it really works the other way around. Unhappiness, depression, sadness, these are processes. Anxiety, it's a process. The reason I've helped 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people, learn how to feel good for no good reason at all. And the first thing I tell somebody that comes to me with depression is, you know why people are depressed? Because they've perfected the process of depressing themselves. And once you learn how to do a little something different in your brain, change what you do, most of the time it's out of awareness, take conscious control of your unconscious mind, you can learn how to feel good. When you feel good, people who feel good make good choices. People who feel crummy make crummy choices. Learn to feel good for no good reason at all.
And I always tell people the other two things to focus on is connect to other people, connect to self, and then service. Service, and I don't mean by service necessarily, ladling soup in a soup kitchen, just identifying something in someone else and paying homage to it, being of service to it in some way. Maybe it's just holding a door, but consistently be of service. But let me switch back to the ISIS thing really quickly if I could. Again, our phone number is 1-800-222-5222. So these guys are manipulating, they're selling, they're preying on vulnerable folks. What's the end game here? Where do you think this is going? Do you have do you have a crystal ball? Any sense of how, is this just going to be a cockroaches? This is going to be a continued thing amongst us for an undetermined period of time, or is this going to be some sort of crisis, or are we going to solve this thing and root it out?
Well, I probably all of the above. It's going to take a multi-pronged approach. There's, you work with addicts. Somebody's a heroin addict. First, you got to get them off of the heroin. Then you've got to clean up their life so that they don't go back to it. So I think the approach will be pretty similar here. Obviously, we've got to have cameras, and we've got to keep track, and we've got to do the things we hate, like monitoring, to catch people before they go or before they shoot up places like Garland, Texas.
Yeah, I think we should monitor more. I think this whole idea of privacy needs to be deferred for a while. If you're not doing anything wrong, what do you care? What do you care? Forget the slippery slope.
It's really unfortunate, Drew, but the science has proven the less likely you are to get caught, the more likely you are to cheat or to steal, and it's been proven over and over and over again. Every study points that out. So none of us want to be watched, but the bottom line is we're in a position right now where we're going to be stuck with it for a while until we change the paradigm and teach people how to make better choices.
Let me wrap up one quick question, and that would be, if you know someone who is being persuaded inappropriately by any kind of organization, is there any technique to gaffing them back on board?
Well, yeah. Again, if I was able to spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in one time with these people, I can help them, because what happens is, before we have any behavior, and this is what's missing in traditional help, before we have any behavior, we run a strategy, a recipe in our brain. If we change what we do, if we identify it and change what we do, we get a different feeling and we get a different result. It's predictable. When you got up this morning, I assume you put the toothbrush in your mouth. Had you put it in your ear, you would have had it. You didn't think about, by the way, what to do with the toothbrush, but you run this strategy, picture sounds in a microsecond in your brain. If you had a problem, if the toothbrush was going in your ear, we would identify the process you used, we would change it, we would reinsert it, and the bottom line is the next day it goes in your mouth. And that's a metaphor for exactly what's going on now, and we can teach people how to do these things. I do it every day with my clients to get better results.
Thank you, Adam Heller. Appreciate it. Certified Behavioral Analyst, adamheller.com. Is that right?
It is exactly right. And thanks for having me on.
Anytime. We'll have you back, no doubt. Dr. Drew